The standby, the stalemate, the standoff at the Iowa State House, whatever it is, but there has been a timeout here. Nearly all the Iowa legislators went home for a while as the Republican leaders were working once again to try to find that compromise on the issue that the governor has made a priority again this year. House Speaker Pat Grassley will join us on the chances for that compromise on the governor's idea so that taxpayers help more students transfer to private school. And then if you're taking that closer look at gas prices right now, well, Iowa's only Democrat in Congress will join us. She's talking about where she sees some relief when it comes to gas and your overall monthly bills. And this is a picture that we do not get to see very often, if really ever. We're going to tell you what brought all four current Iowa members of the U.S. House into the same room and also with some laughter.
From your local election headquarters, this is The Insiders with Dave Price.
Iowa Republicans hold a majority and they control the calendar at the State House, basically. Now, if you remember, Governor Kim Reynolds last February, she was at this event. She held it at St. Teresa Catholic School in Des Moines. It was regarding her Students First scholarships. This is the second year that the governor's tried to convince enough members of her own party in the legislature to put tax dollars behind a push to help students transfer from public to private school. Debate on the budget, renewable fuel expansion, the bottle bill, and other things stopped over the past week as leaders try to look for a compromise when it comes to this issue. Now, in the end, it could mean there will be this smaller pilot project for this voucher idea that includes only the larger Iowa cities, maybe.
We feel pretty strongly there needs to be some level of choice for parents and students in education.
For the members in the rural areas where there's not a private school close to them, they've been resistant to this the last couple of years. The governor's tried to push this. How are you going to bring them on board?
Well, I think some of the ideas, like you said, is it a pilot program maybe? Looking at, different sizes of schools that may qualify, that have more options within their border and in that geographical area. Some of those ideas are obviously being looked at by members of the caucus. And ultimately, it isn't about those members being opposed to more choice in education. It's just in rural Iowa, a lot of the foundation that's really left of their community maybe is the local school district. And so I think some of them have just been a little bit more guarded in their approach to this because of that being one of those last pieces of the community that rural Iowa still has within their district. So they've been a little more cautious in their approach, I think.
In the House side, you've done most of the work. You worked through the budget bills, gave it to the Senate weeks ago. Almost all of those are just sitting there. Does that tick you off?
No, I don't. Like I said, it's part of the legislative process. I would actually say it's healthy from the standpoint of, we have the trifecta, and sometimes I think people think just because the governor or the House or the Senate proposed something, we're all Republicans, we should just all agree on every piece of legislation. That hasn't been our approach. We're going to take the time, vet the issues that need to be. The budget's extremely important to our caucus. Part of why we wanted to get that moving along is, like I said, we passed a very large tax cut earlier in session. We wanted to show that we could support the tax cut as well as fund our priorities within the budget. That's why we got to work as early as we did on the budget this year.
So when people say to you, all right, Republicans control every facet of this, you set a 100-day schedule by the calendar, and you guys couldn't finish on time. What do you think of that?
Like I said, I think Iowans, if they thought that all we did is take proposals as Republicans and just pass them through day one without giving them proper vetting, I would think they'd be even more frustrated with that. After 100 days, legislators lose their per diem and any additional cost that it may have to the state. So I don't think it's always a negative that things take time to get done. I think that shows we're being deliberative in our approach, trying to make sure that we're vetting each issue and they're seeing the proper light of day. Everybody's saying, the new narrative now is everything's being done in the dark, and I ultimately say at the end of the day, whatever we pass has to be voted on. There's nothing more transparent than a vote on the floor of the House or the Senate.
But the deal itself is being worked out with leadership while the members are at home, isn't it?
No, I mean, we're taking the input. In the House side, we're taking the input constantly. We're having, conversations. Some of our members that are kind of taking the lead on this are continuing to work with members as far as seeing what I touched on earlier, what those approaches may be. So I wouldn't think things are being done in the dark. And ultimately, at the end of the day, Iowans, if we were to move forward on something, Iowans are going to see where everyone stands based on the vote.
Is the governor pressuring some of the resistant in your caucus?
Well, I would say that the governor feels very passionate about this as far as one of the, if not the priority issue, not only remaining in session, but coming into this legislative session. So she's doing what I would say any governor is going to do to try to get their agenda done, meeting with members, taking their feedback. Like I said earlier, we're looking at different changes within what that bill may look like to find a path forward. And all of that is being done in a transparent manner that the governor's, it's not like we're being secluded in the House and just saying, hello, we're going to have a surprise for you, Governor. We're communicating, hey, these are some of the ideas that our members are bringing up and looking at.
But what kind of pressure are they getting? Are they, the talk is that she's had conversations with them about, all right, if you want me to campaign for you this fall, get on board.
Well, I think
is that happening?
I think everybody knows that for a strong Republican Party and a strong ticket that we have going into this fall election, it's going to take all the way from the federal down to the local candidates working together so we can continue our strength that we've had in the electoral process. So I think that'll all work itself out as far as if any members, at the end of the day, we're all Republicans. And right now we're working through the legislative process. And sometimes the legislative process, like this is, everybody kind of seeing the sausage, being made. That's what we always get told. But this is part of just, putting together a piece of legislation. And I think ultimately for our party, the Republican Party, to be successful, it's going to take all of us working together come to fall.
Fair or unfair that basically everything right now hinges on get the deal on schools first, and then the other pieces are going to fall into place?
I would say that is fairly accurate from what's going on right now. We're trying to find a path forward what that would look like. Like I said in the House, and you said this, we've taken a lot of action on other pieces that we think are extremely important. And right now, that's one of the last pieces that we're going to have to get figured out to try to get through the rest of session.
Hearing you talk, you sound more optimistic that there will be a deal on schools than some of your members have expressed privately. Does that mean that you're seeing some progress here?
I would say that I would say the feedback that we continue to get from members is positive, and I think that's what's positive about this approach that we're taking. It isn't a strong arm, you will vote for the governor's plan that was sent over from the Senate. I think it's been made pretty clear from the caucus that that plan's going to need some work, and I think that's what we're working through right now. So while whether I sound optimistic or not, I can say that, we're really trying to dig in and see what those concerns that need to be addressed within our caucus. So I look at that as positive. We are getting some positive feedback.
But your gut, this ain't your first rodeo, so you went through this last year, and I know this bill looks differently, but you have to have a pretty good feel from members about, hey, this is something I think we can actually figure out once we figure out the specifics.
Well,
right?
I think at the end of the day, it's gonna take work, obviously, for us to get there. I'm not saying that this is a slam dunk. So any level of optimism is more that, from the standpoint of we are working through that with the members. They are bringing us concerns, and we're trying to address those and address some of the things that we've talked about today. So I'm only optimistic from the standpoint is we are still getting positive feedback from the members on things that they would like to see that make the bill more appealing to them. So whether that ultimately at the end of the day gets to 51 votes or not, I can tell you the feedback, it's not like it's just the line of communication is cut off.
You all are not going to bring the members back until there's a deal, is that right?
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily the case at this point in time. There's a few other pieces, unemployment, there's a few other smaller tax issues that are kind of lying out there and some other policy. So I don't know if I can make that prediction today or not, but we're trying to see what that path forward would look like. You don't want to just continue to bring members in one day at a time, and especially some that travel. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, at the end of the day, if we have some work that needs to be done and some progress can be made on other issues, we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll continue to work through the issues that are outstanding.
We talk about the members. Most of the members have another job. You would be included here. So how are the fields looking when you're spending this time in Des Moines?
Yeah, the ground temperature is not where we need it to be yet here soon, but I know that folks are starting to get a little nervous about when that's going to be, whether you're in the legislature or just working the land yourself. Yeah, that's exactly right. He's not quite nervous yet, but it's getting closer.
What you mentioned unemployment. Do you see your caucus moving to give the Senate what it wants on making people wait that week before benefits kick in?
I would say when it comes to unemployment, I think regardless of whether we are able to pass the 1 week wait or not that the Senate passed us, that was from the governor's original bill, I think the positive sign is that we all are in agreement on the reduction of the weeks to the 16 weeks. So whether we're able to do that or not, I think the caucus feels strongly about getting something done at least on the reduction of the weeks itself. So I feel strongly that will get to the governor's desk. I can't really answer whether we will be able to do the week or not. I think it's going to be pretty close if we were able to.
What about on the renewables here with the convenience stores offering the higher blend of ethanol here? Do you feel like there's something within grasp there?
I would consider this similar issue to kind of, we have the ESA bill on our side. The Senate has this on their side as far as bills that each of us have take action on in the other chamber. Again, a priority that the governor has laid out that the House feels pretty strongly about as well, this being one of the first bills that we passed this legislative session. I've been pretty clear to the Senate and to the governor, just include us in what those, if there needs to be changes, ultimately the goal of ours is to get more E15 and more options out to the consumer. And so just include us in what those changes may be to get something done. Our position hasn't been it's this or nothing, but we don't want to water down the bill to the point that it doesn't have the effect we expect.
But so do you feel like in the end this is going to be kind of a voluntary thing and maybe the state helps out with the transition for these stations that can't afford it?
I always remind everyone, and not to get too into the weeds on this issue, but for years and for decades, the state has spent millions and millions of dollars upgrading infrastructure across the state. I don't think it's really, everybody wants to say mandate. I don't look at it as a mandate. This has been a partnership between the state and these convenience stores for decades. I don't look at it as a mandate. I look at it us just wanting some accountability with our tax dollars, and that coming in the form of wanting to have more E15 offered at the pump. So from that standpoint, I think that's the ultimate goal, is to get some level of return on the investments that we've made.
So he's one of the two Grasslys you'll find on the November election ballot. Grandpa Chuck's running for that 8th term in the U.S. Senate. Up next, what Congresswoman Cindy Axne thinks of that signature situation for the candidate who she endorsed for the Senate.